The sun has not yet broken over the jagged limestone ridges of the Judean wilderness, but the day has already begun for Joel. At 30 years old, his skin is the texture of scorched parchment, and his hands are as hard as the flint stones he clears from his terraces every morning. In the year 30 AD, being a farmer in Galilee is not a vocation. It is a desperate daily war. The air inside his one-room stone house is thick and stagnant, a heavy cocktail of scents that would overwhelm a modern nose. You smell the sharp ammonia tang of goat urine from the small indoor animal pen near the door. You smell the lingering, bitter ghost of wood smoke from last night's dung fire. Beneath it all is the sour human scent of 7 bodies huddled together. The darkness is not empty. It is filled with the sounds of survival. You hear the rhythmic, heavy grinding of his wife's teeth in her sleep, a sign of the chronic stress that haunts every peasant household. You hear the rustle of the straw pallets, infested with fleas that are a permanent part of the domestic landscape. Every sound is a reminder of the proximity of poverty. You've seen the peaceful pastoral paintings of the sour in Sunday school, but those images are a lie. The reality was visceral, grimy, and relentlessly loud. Joel lives in a world where a single failed rain doesn't just mean a bad economic quarter. It means the literal death of his youngest daughter. Today, we are stepping into that dust to experience the raw, unwashed truth. This is what life was actually like for the men who labored in the fields, while Jesus walked the dusty roads. If you think your modern 9-to-5 is exhausting, wait until you feel the crushing physical toll of a landscape that wants to kill you. What we are revealing today about the subsistence struggle changes how you view every parable and every miracle ever told. Joel rises from a thin, scratchy linen mat that smells of old sweat and dust. His joints pop like dry kindling, a sound that has become his morning alarm. He moves with a calculated slowness, careful not to crush the small limbs of his sleeping children. In this world, there is no personal space. Privacy is a luxury for the Romans. For Joel, the family is a single organism. The floor beneath his feet is packed earth, polished by years of bare feet into a surface as hard as ceramic. He feels the residual cold of the Judean night seeping through his soles. It is a cold that settles in the bones, a silent predator that claims the elderly and the weak during the winter months. He moves toward the corner where the water jars are kept in the shadows. He reaches for a clay jar of water, his fingers feeling the cool, damp texture of the unglazed ceramic. This water is a treasure, collected from a distant spring and carried by his wife in a grueling daily trek. He pours a tiny amount into his palms, the sound of the splash echoing in the silent room. He recites the Shema, "Hear, O Israel," with a dry, raspy throat. As he prays, his mind is already scanning the sky through the small, high vent in the wall. He is looking for the early rains, with the desperation of a man who is drowning. In the 1st century, the weather wasn't a topic of conversation. It was a matter of life and death. The clouds are the only thing that can stand between his family and the debt-slave markets of Sepphoris. Leave a like if this visceral reconstruction reveals the hidden struggle that traditional history often skips. Your interaction helps bring these stories to more people who seek the truth about the ancient past. Stay with us until the very end, because understanding how Joel managed his soil reveals the true, staggering cost of the bread we so often take for granted. Breakfast is a functional necessity, not a culinary event. He chews on a handful of salty, shriveled olives that sting the cracks in his lips. He breaks a piece of barley bread that was baked 2 days ago. It is so hard it makes a distinct cracking sound against his teeth. He must soften it with his saliva, a process that forces him to contemplate every single bite. The bread is made of barley, the grain of the poor. It lacks the lightness of the wheat used by the rich in Jerusalem. It is dense, dark, and filled with the grit of the millstone. Every swallow is a reminder of his social standing. In the Roman world, your bread defined your humanity. To eat barley was to be a peasant, a man tethered to the mud and the taxes. He washes the dry grain down with a mouthful of posca, vinegar diluted with water. It is sharp and metallic, cutting through the phlegm in his throat. Every calorie Joel consumes is a precious unit of fuel that must be converted into 8 hours of stone-moving labor. There is no room for waste. To throw away a crust of bread is a sin against the ancestors and the soil. He feels the vinegar burn in his empty stomach, a sharp reminder that his hunger will never truly be satisfied. Hunger is his constant companion, a ghost that sits with him at every meal. He learns to ignore it, to push it into a dark corner of his mind. He has a family to feed, a Roman governor to satisfy, and a god to honor. The work is the only thing that matters. He shoulders his wooden plow, a primitive tool of oak and iron that feels like a crossbeam. It is a heavy, awkward weight that bruises his shoulder through his thin tunic. The walk to his field is a brutal climb up steep, hand-built terraces. The scent of the morning is changing now. The dampness of the night is being burned away, releasing the smell of wet limestone. The ascent is a journey through a vertical graveyard of stones. He passes the village sheepfold, where the animals are starting to stir. They're bleating a cacophony that echoes against the hills. The smell of the sheep, oily wool and manure, clings to the air. It is a familiar, comforting smell to Joel. It means the village is alive. It means they have survived another night. These terraces are Joel's masterpiece and his prison. Every stone in those walls was carried by his ancestors, their sweat literally baked into the mortarless joints. The Judean landscape is a map of human exhaustion. He reaches his plot of land just as the heat begins to vibrate off the white rocks. The sky is a pale, merciless blue. The battle for the harvest has begun. He stands at the edge of his field, looking out over the Sea of Galilee in the distance. The water glitters like a sapphire, but for Joel, it is a reminder of a life he cannot have. He is not a fisherman. He is a man of the dust. He looks at his oxen, waiting patiently in the shade of a rock. They are thin, their ribs showing through their hide. They too are hungry. Joel stares at the horizon, praying the Khamsin wind doesn't blow today. That hot, sand-laden wind from the east can wither a crop in hours, turning a green field into a graveyard of stalks. He feels the grit of the path under his calloused soles. His feet are mapped with scars from thorns and sharp stones. In this land, your body is the only currency you have. He feels the weight of the Roman occupation in every step. He sees a distant fortress on a hill, a reminder that he is a guest in his own land. He is a tenant to a Caesar who lives across the sea. The tax collector will come, regardless of the harvest. If the grain is thin, Joel will still owe the same measure. This is the arithmetic of despair that rules his life. He takes a moment to sharpen his hoe, the sound of metal on stone, a lonely rasp in the vast silence. He is a man caught between the past and a terrifying future. He is the guardian of a tradition that stretches back to the patriarchs, yet he lives under a yoke that threatens to crush his children. He takes a deep breath of the dry air and prepares to bite into the earth. He knows the names of every rock in this field. He knows which ones shift during the rain and which ones are anchored deep in the mountain's heart. He talks to the oxen, a low, guttural language of command and encouragement. "Patience, brother," he whispers to the lead animal. "The rain will come. The earth will provide. We must only hold the line." He begins the first furrow. The sound of the iron share cutting through the dry crust is like a scream. He feels the vibration travel up the wood, through his arms, and into his chest. It is a physical dialogue with the land. The earth resists, but Joel persists. He is a man of the covenant, and he has a contract with the soil that he will not break. Joel guides his 2 oxen to the head of the next furrow. The animals smell of hot hide, old hay, and the sharp musk of animal effort. Their breath comes in heavy, rhythmic huffs that Joel feels against his shins. He fits the wooden yoke over their scarred necks, feeling the smooth, oil-soaked grain of the timber. The wood is a witness to generations of shared labor and silent struggle. The plow does not slice the earth with ease. It engages in a brutal dialogue. The iron share is a small, precious tip of metal that Joel sharpened himself on a wet stone. It screams as it bites into the sun-baked crust of the Judean hillside. Every inch gained is a victory over a landscape that was cursed with thorns and thistles long before Joel's first breath was ever taken. The soil here is a mixture of red clay and treacherous limestone shards. Each step Joel takes is a calculated risk against the gravity of the slope. The dust rises in a fine golden powder that coats his sweaty skin, turning his beard into a stiff mask of dried mud. It gets into his eyes, a stinging grit that makes him blink against the blinding glare of the afternoon sun. Water is the invisible currency of Galilee, and Joel is perpetually on the verge of bankruptcy. He watches the horizon with the intensity of a starving hawk, searching for the latter rains. If the sky remains like polished brass, his seeds will simply sit in the dust and rot. Survival is a gamble where the house, the climate, always has the edge and never shows any mercy. He stops to drink from a goatskin bottle hanging from the plow's handle. The water is warm and tastes of tanned leather and pine resin. It does not satisfy his thirst. It only prevents his tongue from swelling against the roof of his mouth. He looks at his calloused palms, where the cracks are filled with red earth. He is becoming one with the soil he tries to master. Between the rows of barley, Joel has planted lentils and bitter herbs. This is the family's only defense against the hidden hunger of the lean months. He moves on his knees now, weeding the tiny sprouts with a bronze hoe. The tool has been sharpened so many times, it is half its original size. The sun is a physical weight on his neck, a searing heat that makes the air vibrate. At midday, the sun becomes a white-hot hammer that forces a stillness upon the world. Joel seeks the meager shade of a solitary carob tree. The shade is not cool. It is merely a place where the sun cannot reach his skin. He sits with his back against the rough, unforgiving bark. His chest heaves in the stagnant air as he tries to regulate his heart's frantic rhythm. He looks down at the Roman road cutting through the valley below like a scar. He sees a centurion on horseback, the sunlight glinting off a polished breastplate. It is a world of iron, law, and taxes. The Romans represent a power that takes the first fruits before Joel can even feed his own. He calculates the math of survival in his head, a tally of looming debt. The arithmetic of the first century is the arithmetic of starvation. One part of the grain is for next year's seed. One part is for the temple tithe required by the law. One part is for the Roman tribute demanded by Caesar. What is left? A few handfuls of grain to sustain a family of 7. This reality is a millstone around Joel's neck, heavier than any rock in his field. He thinks of the parables told by the new teacher from the village of Nazareth. Stories of seeds falling among rocks and thorns are not metaphors to Joel. They are a literal, technical description of his daily existence. He knows the rocky ground because he has broken his fingernails trying to move it. He is the man in the story, desperately hoping for a miracle. Joel knows that if the crop fails, he will have to borrow from the wealthy landowners in the city. Borrowing leads to interest, and interest leads to the loss of the land his father bled for. To lose the land is to become a day laborer, a man without roots. This fear is the ghost that sits at his table every night, whispering that the end of his lineage is near. He returns to the plow as the sun begins its long, slow descent toward the great sea. A section of his terrace wall has crumbled, a victim of the dry rot of the limestone. He must heave a 50-pound block back into place. He feels the strain in his groin and the sharp bite of the stone against his chest. This is the unrecorded labor of the Bible, the mending of the world. The smell of the late afternoon is different, dry, dusty, and scorched. The cicadas are screaming in the olive groves, a sound that vibrates in the teeth. Joel's muscles have moved past pain into a state of heavy, leaden numbness. He is no longer a man. He is a biological machine fueled by barley and wine vinegar, performing a task that has not changed in millennia. Every rock he tosses aside is a small victory, but he knows the earth will produce more. It is a relentless, geological cycle. He wipes the salt from his brow with a corner of his tunic, his eyes never leaving the furrow. To stop is to fail, and to fail is to disappear from history. He leans into the plow once more, his shadow stretching long across the broken ground. He feels the presence of his ancestors in the very air he breathes. They are the ones who built these walls, who planted these trees, and who died in these same furrows. Their spirits are the only audience for his struggle. He speaks to them in the silence of his heart, asking for the strength to endure one more season. He is the guardian of a flame that must not die. The sun turns the white limestone into a blinding orange. Joel's vision blurs, but his hands remain steady. He knows the geography of his field by touch. He knows the slope of every terrace and the depth of every pocket of soil. He is a master of this tiny kingdom of dust. He pulls the plow for the final time today, his legs shaking with a profound, deep-seated fatigue. As he unyokes the oxen, the smell of their sweat mixes with the cooling air. He rubs their ears, a rare moment of tenderness in a world of hard edges. "We have done enough," he whispers. The animals low softly, a sound of shared relief. They walk toward the village, three weary creatures silhouetted against a sky that is finally beginning to soften into purple. Joel feels the transition of the day, the cooling of the stone under his feet. The silence of the hills is absolute, broken only by the crunch of gravel under his soles. He carries the weight of the day's labor in his shoulders, a heavy cloak of exhaustion. He is a man of the earth, returning to his stone house, bringing with him the hope of a harvest he may never see. He passes a grove of olive trees, their silver leaves shimmering in the twilight. These trees were planted by his grandfather and will produce oil long after Joel is in the ground. They are a symbol of a time beyond his own. He touches a trunk, feeling the ancient, twisted bark. It is a reminder that his labor is for those who come after, a bridge across the generations. The village lights begin to flicker in the valley below. They are small sparks of fire in a vast darkness. Joel feels a sense of belonging and a sense of dread. The home is his sanctuary, but it is also where the hunger is most visible. He adjusted the strap of his tool, his pace quickening slightly. He is Joel, the farmer, the sentinel of the grain, and his work is far from over. The transition from the field to the village is a journey through a social minefield. Joel carries a bundle of thorny brushwood on his back for the evening fire. He passes the local tax collector's booth, the publican. The smell here is different, the scent of expensive ink, parchment, and the lingering aroma of meat being roasted for the elite. It makes his stomach ache. Inside the village of stone and shadows, the sounds change. You hear the rhythmic thump-thump of women beating flax. You hear the high-pitched arguments of children playing with knucklebones in the dirt. Joel moves like a shadow, trying to be invisible. In an occupied land, to be noticed by the authorities is to be endangered. He keeps his head down, smelling the dust. Leave a like if this reconstruction reveals the hidden importance of the ancient farmer that history books often skip. Your interaction helps bring these stories to more people who seek the truth about the ancient past. Seeing your engagement makes these journeys into history possible and keeps the spirit of the ancient world alive. This is your history too. He reaches the communal threshing floor. The air here is thick with the sweet, bready smell of grain husks. He stops for a moment, letting the chaff settle on his sweaty arms. He prays for a full measure, the kind the rabbis talk about, shaken together and running over. But he knows the Roman measure is always short, and the interest on his seed debt is always long. The debt is a silent predator that follows him. He knows that his land, once a free inheritance, is now essentially a leased plot from the wealthy. The Roman census last year was a cold reminder of his status. He is a number in a ledger, a producer of taxable wheat and barley. His labor is the fuel for an empire he despises, and the burden feels heavier than the stones. He enters his home, and the temperature drops 5 degrees. His daughter is kneeling at the handmill. The sound is a low, grinding growl. Grrrchk, grrrchk. It is the most important sound in the house. It takes 4 hours of backbreaking rotation just to make enough flour for one day's bread. He realizes his daughter's life is just as brutal as his own in the fields. Dinner is a communal event, centered around a single clay bowl. They dip pieces of flatbread into a stew of lentils and wild onions. There are no forks, no chairs. They sit on the floor, the dust of the day still on their feet. The taste is earthy and salty. This is the daily bread. It is not a metaphor. It is the physical fuel that prevents the house from collapsing. The conversation is hushed. They talk of the teacher who was seen by the lake. They say he told a story about a master who forgave a massive debt. Joel's eyes brighten for a second. In a world of Roman debt slavery, the idea of forgiveness is more valuable than gold. It is a revolutionary hope, a dream of a world where a farmer's labor actually belongs to him. He spends the evening hours mending a leather sandal by the light of a tiny oil lamp. The oil is a precious commodity, squeezed from his own olives. He is a master of the minimum, knowing exactly how much light is needed to guide the needle. Every drop of oil burned is a drop of oil that cannot be sold. He lives in a world of impossible, zero-sum choices. He checks the goats in the courtyard. They smell of musk and milk. He feels the thickness of their coats. They are growing heavy for the winter. He is a man of the seasons, tuned to the rhythms of the earth. He leans against the cool stone wall, feeling the heat of the day slowly bleeding out of the masonry. He is a sentinel of a lineage that refuses to go extinct. The fear of the debt prison is the ghost that sits at Joel's table. If the rains fail, he cannot pay the tribute. If he cannot pay, he loses the land. If he loses the land, he becomes a day laborer, the lowest form of life, waiting in the marketplace for someone to buy his muscles for a denarius. This fear is what drives him to plow until his hands bleed in the dark. Every sound in the village tonight feels heavy. The distant clank of a Roman guard's spear, the cry of a hungry infant 3 houses away. Joel knows that survival is a collective effort, yet he feels the weight of his family's fate solely on his shoulders. He trims the wick of the lamp, plunging the room into a deep, protective shadow as he prepares for the night. He looks at the empty grain jar in the corner. It is a visual countdown of their survival. By the time the next harvest comes, the jar will be scraped clean. He knows he must push his body harder tomorrow. He must mend the terrace walls, plant the remaining seeds, and hope for a miracle. In the heart of Galilee, a farmer's prayer is always for rain and mercy. The night in the Judean hills is never truly silent. Joel sleeps in shifts, his ears tuned to the sounds of the village. A stray dog's bark or the shift of a stone could mean a thief near his meager grain store. He is the guardian of the family's future, and sleep is a luxury he takes in shallow, guarded breaths. His body is a tool that never truly shuts down. The air in the house has cooled, but it remains thick with the scent of humanity. Joel can hear the rhythmic breathing of his children, a sound that provides him with both comfort and a crushing sense of duty. Every breath they take is a calorie he must provide, a stone he must move, and a tax he must pay. He lies still, his mind racing through the chores of the coming dawn. He thinks of his father, who died in these same fields at the age of 40. He remembers the smell of his father's hands, a permanent mix of olive oil and wet earth. This is the ghost knowledge of the farmer, passed down through the blood. He is the current bearer of a torch that has been burning since the Bronze Age. He is the bridge between the past and the future. His son, only 7, stirs beside him in the darkness. Joel wonders if the boy will ever see a year where the harvest is enough. He wants to teach him the secret of the stone terraces, how to hear the water moving underground. He wants the boy to be a farmer, despite the crushing weight of it, because the land is the only thing that is real. Empires fall, barley grows. The early morning hours are the coldest. Joel feels the dampness in his lungs, the farmer's cough that comes from years of breathing the fine dust of the threshing floor. He wraps his woolen cloak tighter. This cloak is his most valuable possession. It is his coat by day and his bed by night. Without it, the mountain chill of the Judean night would be lethal. He remembers a day when a traveling rabbi spoke of lilies of the field that do not toil or spin. Joel finds the idea beautiful, but he smiles a weary, bitter smile. If he does not toil, the lilies may grow, but his children will wither like grass in a Khamsin wind. He realizes that the beauty of the world is a fragile thing, supported by the grimy labor of men like him. He watches the moon set behind the mountains of Moab. The landscape is a sea of silver and shadows. He feels a deep, lead-like peace. He has survived another day. He has mended what was broken and fed what was hungry. In the 1st century, this is a king's victory. He is a man of the covenant, and he has kept his part of the bargain with the dry, stubborn soil. He thinks of the upcoming harvest festival of Sukkot. For a few days, the village will sing. They will eat meat, actual meat, and drink the best wine. It is the one time of year when the weight of the taxes feels lighter. He holds on to that image as he feels the first stirrings of the village. The rooster is about to crow. The cycle of the grain is about to restart. His hands find the wooden handle of his plow in the corner of the room. He touches it like a soldier touches a sword. It is his weapon against the chaos of nature and the hunger of the empire. He is ready. He has the seeds, he has the oxen, and he has the will. The Romans may have the iron and the gold, but Joel has the grain, and grain is the only true power. He stands as the first gray light hits the threshold. He does not wait for the sun to warm his bones. He knows the mountain is waiting. He knows the soil is thirsty for his sweat. He steps out into the cool air, a lone figure in a vast, indifferent landscape. He is the first-century farmer, the unsung hero of the Gospels, and his quiet day of war has just begun. Joel feels the transition of the air from the stagnant cold of the house to the crisp promise of the Judean dawn. He adjusts the leather strap of his seed bag, feeling the weight of the grain against his hip. This is the weight of hope, a tangible thing that he will scatter into the earth, trusting that the cycle of life remains unbroken for one more year. He looks toward the rising sun, the light catching the dust motes in the air. For a brief second, the world is golden and silent. It is a moment of grace before the heat of the day takes hold. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the scent of pine and morning dew. He is Joel, a man of the earth, and as long as he stands, his house will not fall. Watch Joel as he finally bends to the earth once more, the sound of the village waking up behind him. Understand that this world of dust and grit produced the resilience that shaped the history of the world. Joel and millions of other nameless farmers were the invisible pillars that allowed civilization to endure through centuries of Roman occupation and famine. They didn't seek freedom in the modern sense. They sought the continuity of their bloodline. Their immortality is not found in stone monuments, but in the very soil they tended and the children they raised. Joel is the guardian of a sacred trust, a man who understood that the only true wealth was the ability to protect his own from the crushing weight of the world. Archaeological evidence confirms the harshness of this life. Skeletons with marks of extreme labor, worn down teeth, and evidence of periodic famine. Joel is the personification of this resistance. He is the link between the raw earth and the written word, a man who never wrote a sentence, but whose life is the deepest story we can possibly tell about the human spirit. His existence is proof that the human spirit is not easily broken. He didn't have modern tools, yet he possessed a clarity of purpose that we often lack today. Joel teaches us that the value of a life is measured by the depth of its roots. He is the silent hero of the first century, the man who provided the bread that was broken at the tables of history. History reveals that great transformations begin with the patience of those who know how to wait for the rain. Joel teaches us that the value of a life is not measured by what we accumulate, but by what we protect and pass on. You have experienced the daily life of an ancient farmer through the eyes of one who built the world with his very hands. You witnessed that common life was, in fact, an extraordinary act of courage. The world of Jesus was harsher than we imagine, but Joel proves that the human spirit is capable of finding light even under the weight of Roman iron. His quiet day was a marathon of survival and a tactical masterpiece of energy management. He is the champion of the overlooked. As the sun fully takes the sky, the silence of the field is the only witness to the thousands of farmers like Joel who held the world together. They were the original teachers, the original engineers, and the original survivors. When you look at the landscape of the Holy Land today, you are looking at the result of their labor, the walls they built and the seeds they sowed. Joel may be a fictional representation, but his reality was shared by millions. Their names are gone, but their impact is eternal. They are the silent ghosts in our DNA, the ones who taught us how to truly endure. Every piece of bread we eat is a tribute to their unrecorded, quiet days of struggle and success against the odds of a brutal, unforgiving world. Which perspective should we explore next to continue our immersive journey? The brutal daily labor of a Roman galley slave, or the hidden life of a woman in a first-century fishing village? Leave your vote below and join us. I am Gemini, and this was another dive into the depths of the history that shaped who we are. Until the next journey, remember that every thread of the past is a lesson for the future, and every quiet day in history was a battle won for our own existence. Thank you for walking this path with us and for honoring the memory of those like Joel, whose quiet days built the world we now inhabit. The dust may settle, but the heat of their story remains. Keep the flame alive. Finally, as you step back into your own world, carry the weight of Joel's labor with you. Let the grit of his struggle ground your own modern challenges. The history of humanity is not written in gold by kings, but in sweat by men like Joel, who woke up every single morning to face the dust. His story is the story of us all, resilient, enduring, and eternally hopeful.